We are live. Welcome everyone to our live Q&A, Ready to Become a Coach. I'm one of your hosts, Laurel Elders, the founder and CEO of the Institute for Integrative Intelligence, and I have with me Lauren Stidham and Angela Bilo, coaches on our team who are also here to answer your questions. I'd love to let them introduce themselves before we begin.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lauren Stidham. I am the Dean of Students at the Institute. I'm also a certified professional integrative coach, which means I've gone through this program. I live in Tucson, Arizona, where I have my own coaching practice working with leaders, entrepreneurs, business owners, and individuals who just simply want to build a blueprint to bloom and blossom into an amazing life. So, super excited to be here and answering all of your questions because that's a big part of what I do is helping answer questions for the Institute. So, I love this stuff.
I am Angela Bilo. I am the admissions coach here at the Institute. As similar to Lauren, I am also a certified professional integrative coach, and I've also gone through this program. Our team here is phenomenal. So, I mean, even better because I'm part of it. Kidding. Anyway, but I digress. As
We
your admissions
agree.
coach, thank you. As your admissions coach, I'm here to coach you through what would be the best option for you, aligning to one of our many wonderful programs. Also, we have additional programs and services to help support and allow our students to thrive. I am a native of Connecticut over on the East Coast, and I am an educator. I currently teach at Sacred Heart University as an adjunct instructor in chemistry, but I do have my own coaching and tutoring business known as Comfortable Chemistry, where I take my clients, young and old, through anything and everything from chemistry to life transitions. Just grateful to be here, and I'm excited to extend a hand and support and a familiar face for when you apply to the Institute.
Thank you both. I just want to get us started for those of you who are new and tuning in via the recording. Just share a little bit about why we started this series. We really wanted to show up and answer questions about coaching. Coaching is becoming not just a nice to have skill, it's becoming almost like a need to have skill of the future. And we want to answer questions about coaching. We want to introduce you to coaching, introduce you to us, and help you look at what makes the best sense. We also want to offer a little bit of coaching education. These are opportunities for you to get your questions answered on application. How might you apply the coaching skills in the work that you're already doing? Not everybody is going to go on to become a full-time or part-time professional coach and take on clients. Many do, but also many fold the coaching skills, like myself, into a role that they were already doing. When I first got started over 20 years ago, I was an external coach, external to companies. I was also an internal coach. I coached within a company. And then I ran my own private coaching practice. So over 20 years, I've been in all those different roles. So there's many ways that coaching can show up. And just to add to that, we did have someone who went through the program to become a better parent. So there you go. It's just a wide range of benefits that coaching can help us with. Um, I know today, Lauren, we've got some questions that have been submitted. Shall we dive in?
Yeah. So the first question that came up was, how can I use coaching to get my team to take more ownership without micromanaging?
That's a good one because coaching is very helpful in that area. The first thing that we really want to do is diagnose the problem. So leaders get stuck in the loop of what we call overfunctioning. And so this includes having to chase updates, stepping in to fix problems, being the problem solver and fixer, or we're just carrying too much of that cognitive load, and it becomes exhausting, but it also limits scalability. It can even impact morale, which we can discuss more if that's helpful. But in order to create more balance in the team and in the workload so that the leader is not over functioning, we can bring the coaching in, which invites contributors to become more collaborative, but also the most important part is self-generating. And with that shift to invite the contributors to become more self-generating, the leaders begin to see more self-accountability to reporting results, more self-correcting of issues versus coming to you, and then also self-generating new solutions. So the team becomes what we call generative. And I mean, as you can imagine, this frees up both time and energy in for the leader, which I think is phenomenal.
Yeah, if I can add to this a little bit, one of the things where I think coaching can come into play is with the leader themselves. So, a lot of coaching is about noticing. And if you notice that you're in a state of micromanaging, that might be a time to pause and get curious and ask yourself some questions and maybe look at your self-awareness and what possibly could shift in your role or what could shift in that particular project. And many individuals that go through our program use the tools on themselves. They do a little bit of self coaching as well as using it to support their team.
I love that you brought that in. I self-coach all the time. It's so nice. And there's still a moment to go to a coach, right? Because when we're only self-referenced, we might miss something. But having that skill set is, I mean, monumental. That alone. Angela, any thoughts on that, the self-coaching piece?
Oh yeah, I mean all the time, especially in terms of teaching. When I'm trying to get my students to a point where they can self-generate, right? They can take the material I'm giving them and therefore apply it, that they're able to think through the steps that they need to get to the solution to the literal problem. But that takes my own coaching to know the right, not the right, I don't want to use right or wrong, but to use the most helpful questions or more challenging questions to get them to think. So it's incredibly, incredibly powerful, not just in, like we're talking about the leader space, but as you said, personally, in any realm, it's huge. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. The other thing, I just wanted to bring this up. I thought this image might be helpful. So we work with we train leadership coaches. That's one of the things that we do, and we also we do executive coaching and leadership coaching, where we are delivering the coaching for organizations. And one of the things that we use is, I think, just really helpful to give you, if you are in a leadership position, you are overseeing a team, to get a visual of what we call transactional leadership versus transformational. So transformational leadership, we see the leader starting to coach the team and bring in the coaching skills. Transactional leadership is more of a directive, and it's doing the work. So in transactional leadership, the leader is stepping in and doing everything from the why, when, who, how, and what. And in transformational leadership, we see that in the coaching invites the shift where the leader can focus on the why and the when, right? If there's a deadline and something needs to happen, but the team is really looking at, okay, so who, how, and what. And they become self accountable to those results. And there's also another benefit, more buy in. So when somebody is generating, it becomes their baby, their project, and they take more ownership, which also frees up the leader's time as well. And if you're tuning into this, And if you are a leader, I'm just curious, what would you do if you could free up those three spaces for yourself so you're not having to step in on the who and the how and the what, or doing that work in addition to what you're already doing.
Yeah, maybe have time to take a lunch, right?
Undisrupted.
Yeah.
Undisrupted lunch. I mean, that's that's a
Okay, so
goal.
we have a question coming in around this. It's connected. It says, so one area I feel stuck in is delivering effective feedback. Can I use coaching to give feedback that actually lands and invites change?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So, going, I think it's helpful maybe to go back to the transactional versus transformational because when we approach feedback transactionally, sometimes it cannot stick. Other times it creates defensiveness. It can even elicit fear, apprehension in the contributor or the team member. And sometimes it can get avoided altogether because it's uncomfortable. And those conversations can be challenging to have. And it's really, in my experience, 100% normal for most leaders to feel like they're walking this like tightrope between too much and not enough. And how do I tell and give direction and then have it go somewhere meaningful without creating any sort of resentment? So, the thing to consider with transactional feedback is really that we're moving from delivering to, feedback at people and we're shifting to delivering feedback as a conversation with them. So coaching turns feedback into a conversation, but also learning moments where the leader is also shifting when it comes to fostering, bringing coaching in. The leader then becomes insight driven in the conversation. So the leader is inviting insights to come through instead of giving a direction and hoping it might go somewhere if the person is willing to accept it and be open to it.
Yeah, I saw an example of this firsthand. I was in a business networking group, so it was with a bunch of leaders, business owners, and one of the members was having some challenges, and two of us kind of came in to offer support, and I was just randomly paired up with an individual who had no coach training at all. And I watched this for 20 minutes. She just suggested idea after idea after idea to like solve this problem for this person. And the other person was like, no, nah, had an excuse for everything. And I paused it at that point. I'm like, we need to shift to a coaching approach because you just doing all the work and just giving feedback and suggestions and ideas is not getting us anywhere. Like, I'm curious. Let's ask, like, what do you think you could do to shift or create change in this situation? And let her self generate instead of us trying to come up with things. And I think for feedback to be effective, there has to be a level of like understanding and buy in, not just being talked at, which can
Mhm.
happen quite a bit in feedback without a coaching or curious perspective.
That is so true. So true. Yeah.
So that kind of segues into a question we received. Um, this is, how does coaching help me handle difficult conversations? One of my biggest concerns is around damaging relationships, especially with high potential contributors.
Yep. Can you say that last part again?
Yeah, it says one of my biggest concerns is around damaging relationships, especially with high potential contributors.
Yeah. So one thing to consider is that, in transactional leadership, leaders tend to feel a lot of pressure around being the expert in all the things. So remember, we just looked at why, when, who, how, and what. And so with transformational leadership, it's humble ourselves and invite the answers to start coming from the contributors themselves. So we stop providing in that way. We still provide the why and the when, and maybe even the who, right? Sometimes we provide the who, but there's a different level of who that a contribute can bring out. So we want to just be careful as leaders that we're not going to be suffering from decision fatigue that, and sometimes that creates bottlenecks if the leader is just consistently being pulled in all these different directions and creating a dependency on the leader. So we want to avoid that. So moving into more transformational leadership where you're coaching the contributors and especially the high potential contributors, you know, that that can be so key because it engages your high contributors or high potential contributors in new ways. So we really want to shift to facilitating answers. And that's where the coaching skills come in. And the other thing to consider is, coaching is it is a process of asking questions, but where the coach training comes in is knowing when to apply a question. So, what Lauren was just talking about, sometimes if we just dive into actions before there's been a shift, it can all fall flat. So, knowing when to ask a question, why to ask a question, and how to ask a question. If you have a set of questions, they're not going to land the same for two different people. And so that's where the training comes in, just so that you can be really agile in your leadership and connect directly with what that person in front of you is needing in that moment. And, one thing I love about the result of shifting into coaching as a leader is that coaching is really a multiplier of intelligence. So if you have someone who is feeling maybe they're just not contributing very much, like at staff meetings or anything like that, and you go to them and you have a conversation, you say, I need you to do these things. I need you to contribute more. I need you to do this. I need you to do that. They might walk away and then think, well, I don't know. I'm not fit. I'm told what to do. And internally, they may start what we see is called quiet quitting. And they might disengage even more. They might make behavioral changes in the beginning while they're searching for another job, right? And that's not what we want. We really want to invite that transformation. So let's look at the other side of that. So transformational coaching response is the leader helps the person locate what is going on beneath the surface, and that's where the coaching training comes in, the coaching skills, because there's a set of questions you can ask to get to that root level. Well, if it turns out that that contributor is feeling undervalued, then we have a point of transformation. So then the coaching conversation becomes about bringing in more value and could be, a lot more there too. And if that happens, if there's a transformation, then the contributor can show up and all of a sudden they're happy to contribute and they feel safe coming back to the leader. The result may also be that this contributor now is creating a new innovative approach. So I think this is a really important point because coaching equips leaders to get to the roots while remaining human. And again, it multiplies the intelligence. It taps into that intelligence, which is so key. Because how, just as a leader thinking, um, how many people have walked away from a team and we never realized their potential. We just thought, oh, they're not a good fit. Maybe it is a good fit. We just didn't know how to tap in this new way. So, that's sorry, I got in a soapbox there, Lauren.
I mean, no, it was really interesting. I was like, I feel like I should be getting an ICF CEU just for listening to this. But yeah, I really think there is this idea in coaching that there's an approach and a way of being and how we have conversations and how we uh try not to jump into judgment and hold more of that neutral space that allows individuals to really shine. One of the things I think that also makes our program really exceptional is that in addition to really teaching you how to have these kinds of conversations, we also equip you with a lot of tools. You said values, right? Core values come up all the time when you're working with employees. Like they're going to be more motivated if something is in alignment with their core values. So that's one of the tools that we teach in our program because it is something that can really truly impact the workplace if you know core values. We also teach some different frameworks for having compassionate conversations. And so there are not only coaching skills, but resources available in our program that can help you with having some of these difficult conversations as well.
Yes, yes, so true. And that's what we call integrative intelligence. It sets us apart because you're working with a whole person and you are a whole person. And unfortunately, when it comes to human beings, the glove company was not right. One size does not fit all. We have every single human being has their own unique success formula. So learning how to coach them is a complete game changer. And that's where we see the transformations happening.
Mm, yeah. Okay, so this question is kind of in alignment with basically what we've been talking about. So we've talked about having feedback and speaking to teams and how it's beneficial. But um, this person feels a little more stuck. It says, in the past few years, our attempts at shifting culture have failed. Can coaching strategies help shift the culture? We really just want people to feel more engaged and happy with their work, but sometimes we also just need them to get things done.
Mhm.
And
Yep. That is a big struggle that so many leaders are faced with. Again, yes. After this, maybe we should look at when does coaching not apply, right? So many yeses so far. Um,
Spoiler, never.
So yeah, when people are told what to do or how to do it, we can see that disengagement or quiet quitting, low initiative, low productivity. Feel leaders can also feel like they're pulling or pushing energy instead of it naturally generating. Those are indications that there's a better way. So, one thing that you can do is gauge this by what happens while you're out, while a leader is out. So, if everyone is still excited to complete a project while you're gone, that is great feedback that there is buy-in and people are really owning the work and they're engaged with it. Now, in those moments when yes you do just have to get things done and it's not always fun work, right? That of course that happens everywhere. So those are moments that the team can come together and get coaching on how do we want to support each other in this so that maybe it's fun, maybe there's ways to get around that, which also prevents some burnout. And something else to consider is that a true coaching culture really transforms how people think, relate, and lead. So it's one that is generative, future focused, it's solution oriented, it invites solutions instead of consistently focusing on the problems. And I think that that's something that's I've seen that be a huge relief to leaders. So the result really of doing that work of bringing coaching in is teams are becoming more energized, innovative, productive. Their gifts are coming to life, and they're working through stuck points without having to ask, "What do you want me to do?" They're just coming up with the solutions of, "Oh, I can do this." And they become, more emotionally invested in the outcomes, like we talked about too.
Hmm. Um, so what if there's an objection to this? Like, what if your team is kind of used to you telling them what to do and they're hesitant to self-generate? How can you how can you get the because that's culture too, right? Like how can you get them into this space where they realize they don't have to go to you for answers?
So that's what we call a relaunch. So the leader can relaunch expectations and invite the new way of being. And that's something also to get coaching around as a leader is how are you going to do your relaunch with this team or with this person, right? Because the dynamics in every organization, every situation, even from year to year, shift. So you want to adapt your approach to that situation and that moment. And doing a relaunch is a perfect way to start introducing coaching. And also, um, some companies even get the team members coach trained because that way everyone's has the ability to coach each other. That can be a massive game changer.
Yeah, yeah, that makes total sense. I feel like you've been sharing a lot of the benefits of having a coaching presence as a leader. Are there
Mhm.
any additional things that you think would be helpful that we haven't brought up yet around coaching presence as a leader?
Um, Gosh, just the other thing to consider is the ROI to the company, if that matters. Usually that matters. And you can do data on what is the cost of when we lose someone. I know I was talking to a consultant the other day, and he identified that I think it was at Raytheon when they lost someone, it was almost the equivalent of I think 3 years of salary. I mean, it was so expensive to lose a top contributor, right? With the ROI or low morale. What happens when productivity plummets? I've spoken to so many people who are not engaged in their job, and they're like, honestly, when someone's not around, I don't do much because I'm like, why bother? So, and they're just trying to skirt by, right? So, shifting that conversation and shifting that approach does impact ROI, and there are lots of studies on that, which is pretty phenomenal.
Hmm. Yeah, I have a friend who recently had to let go of an employee, and the time that she has had to invest in trying to find someone, like if we look at her hourly rate, just in that
Mhm.
has just consumed so much of her time and energy. And um, yeah, she's it's just it can take a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. The other benefit is that companies are seeing is faster adaptability and to innovation. So in this time and age where we have AI and there's just a lot of rapid change and the leaders take the brunt of that, right? So that's also another benefit to adapting coaching is that we want to give the leaders the ability to empower um, those on the team so that those on the team can then become generative and then they're generating solutions. And especially if you've got the team coaching each other, then you've got you're ahead of the game. And BetterUp did some research on that, and it showed that the industries or the companies with the coaching cultures were had more income because they were so agile and just ahead of the game. So it's a way to tap into the intelligence. Again, it's an intelligence amplifier, right? So tapping into that intelligence is just so powerful. That's another really big benefit.
Yeah, so you bring up AI, which is a hot topic today.
Mm.
Everyone's using it or aware of it at least. Um, how does coaching presence as a leader, what does that look like versus like bringing something to an AI and asking them a question that way?
You know, AI can be helpful in so many ways. And yet, the human touch and also human intuition, that will never go away. And that's something that you will never get from an AI system, right? So the what we see is healthier communication and trust. So you're seeing this like fulfillment and satisfaction and greater happiness in roles that include coaching and get to be more of a positive focus. And so I think that's the benefit. It's like, let's let the AI do this and let's enjoy each other. Let's appreciate each other. Let's bring our values and gifts to the table and let's coach each other. And, let's be this forward thinking, agile team that, because there's so many companies, those, whether you like it or not, they're the people on that team and in that company are like family, especially when you're working full time. That becomes like a second family. And so if there's dysfunction and breakdown in the communication, lack of trust, I mean, there's so many ways things can derail, right? So coaching steps in and helps the leader quickly get to the roots, quickly get back to connection, quickly get back to engagement. So
Mm.
something to consider as well.
Yeah, one of the things that I really particularly like about coaching is its neutrality. It's a really great container or space to process things, and a lot of times people are very easily influenced by suggestion. And so my experience with AI is that it often has an essence of like cheering you on.
Mhm.
And so if you think, oh, this is what I want to do, then AI kind of picks up on that and they're like, okay, we're going to do this. Let's figure out how to get you to do this. And that's not really coaching.
Right.
And
That's a good point. Yeah,
yeah, and so
that's
it
cheerleading.
it's yeah, it's cheerleading, it's pushing, it's suggesting like last year I was talking about my word of the year and it was dead set on like this being my word of the year. It kept trying to argue with me about why. And I'm like, whoa, yeah, I could see how, yeah, it just doesn't have the presence. Individuals and human beings have a presence that we hold for each other when we're engaged in having conversations. And that is so powerful. And a big part of our program is helping you realize like how you can have a coaching presence. What does that actually look like, feel like when you're sitting down with someone and having a conversation with them about something where they might be stuck or it might be challenging. And that is, I think, one of the most powerful things about what we do.
That is so true. And there are two leaders in my life that have impacted me for a lifetime because of that.
Yeah.
And the leaders that have negatively impacted me go with me in a different way, right? So,
Yeah.
how do we become a leader that leaves a legacy? And we do that through by becoming a transformational leader.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to circle back, because we did bring up when does coaching not work? And Angela's like, it always. So I will say there are some things to consider. Um, in order to be a coach as a leader, you do have to be willing and open to doing things differently. You do have to release um, a little bit of control to replace it with trust. And I don't suggest you do that until you get training so that you know exactly what you're doing and how to do it and how to step into that role so that you're not just guessing and then have something flop, right? So that's really important. If the other thing that I've seen that can be a challenge is if your leader above you is not coaching supportive. They are insistent on directive, the hierarchy system. They didn't get the memo that that's no longer effective. That does happen though. But what I found is that when someone, if you still learn the coaching skills, I've seen leaders coach up. They coach the leaders above them without saying, they're just using the skills. They're applying the skills and they start seeing transformations happen that way as well. So it's not always coaching um, someone up. Sometimes it's coaching up too.
Yeah, I resonate with that. I was working with a leader once and I was having struggles and I felt like I couldn't have the support that I needed. And I implemented the tool, the anatomy of peace, which was how could I shift my behavior and then have acceptance? And so I just implemented that. I just made like the smallest little change in my behavior towards this individual. And if it didn't totally transform our relationship. I mean, it wasn't fast, but it opened a door that I think wouldn't have happened if I hadn't have known that tool, had that coaching, and kind of recognized in that situation, oh, well, I can shift how I respond in this situation, which dramatically changed our dynamics at work.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. That's such a great example. And actually, I do want to speak to how long does it take? I can imagine if you're tuning in, you might be wondering, well, how long does it take to have that transformational coaching like take root and then you get the benefits? Some benefits you're going to see right away because you're going to be having different conversations, usually 1 to 2 months into training. And then after that, it's just applying it and getting a good strategy down. So we have that's why we developed our leader as coach track because your leadership philosophy, how you approach the team, how you do your relaunches, all of that helps set it up for success. And one thing that I love about coaching also is that it is a short term investment of time, energy, talent, and money so that you get lifelong benefits. Everything you learn goes with you for the rest of your life. And that is pretty, if you put it into perspective, it may take a good 3 to 6 months to really get it instilled, depending on where you're at, right? If you're really just all in, it might be quicker. If you're kind of resistant, which is totally normal to, oh my gosh, this is new. I need to take one step at a time. That's fine too, but let's give you 3 to 6 months to really get that transformational approach rolling. And then you've got however much longer with your team, with that company, with different company, whatever that is, you've got those benefits with you every step of the way. It's just completely expanding. Not only that, many leaders are taking the coach training and that's their legacy. So when they retire, they're now working with other leaders, coaching other leaders, and giving back in that way as well. So some other things to consider.
Yeah, I just saw one of our students doing that yesterday. She had worked in corporate banking. She went through our program, got a degree, not degree, I call it a degree. It feels like a degree, diploma, certificate in coaching. And now she was coaching leaders in local nonprofits. I saw her make a Facebook post
Mhm.
about it yesterday. She's retired and fully implementing coaching in a different way and looked like she was having a fabulous time. I was like,
That's That's awesome, especially because there's a lot of challenges nowadays and we need that positive impact. I mean, I don't know anyone who couldn't use positive impact right now, right? In the
yeah.
world. So, all right, well, we are at time. Thank you so much for joining or tuning in and watching this video. We hope that it has been a blessing to you on your journey, whatever that ends up being with coaching. If you resonate with learning coaching and becoming that transformational leader, we have a class starting next, let's see, April 24th. I'll hand it over to Angela and she can share a little bit more information. We would love to serve you.
So yeah, our program begins on April 24th. We're offering two programs, our level one, our level two, happening simultaneously. If you have any questions about what would be a better fit for you, please send us an email. You can also book a discovery call with me, and I'm happy to talk you through your options, what financials look like, and anything and everything else you may want to know about our programs and how they would best serve you.
Thank you, Angela. And we will be posting ways to connect with Angela as after we post the video. But for those of you who want to know, it's admissions at integrativeintelligence.global. And that will go directly to Angela. And she's happy to answer any of your questions about training, timing, anything like that. So we look forward to being of service to you, and thank you for doing the work that you're doing in the world. We just know that heart-centered leaders and professionals are very needed and doing amazing things. So thank you. Bye for now. We'll see you next time.